Salve a tutti, sono Alvaro e benvenuti in un nuovo video. Oggi siamo qui per fare un'intervista a Simon White, cantante e chitarrista dei Vosforis, che ci parlerà del primo album della band, Cosmic Cenotaph. Prima di iniziare ringrazio Simon per la sua grande disponibilità, per aver accettato di essere nostro ospite, vi lascio l'intervista e vi auguro buona visione. Nice to meet you.
You too, thank you very much.
Why you started to do music and why you're starting to do with metal music? Talk me about your best influences.
That's such a good question. I've been playing music since I was 11. I've been playing bass and guitar, and I used to play trombone and some other instruments and things like that. So we're going back to like mid to early 90s. So I was living in South Africa at the time, and sort of grunge and alternative music was getting quite popular at that time, and there was a lot of like Marilyn Manson, Nine Inch Nails, but there was also a bit of tape trading. We got music from like sort of older brothers and things like that, so we got into like sort of extreme metal, like sort of Deicide and Cannibal Corpse and Sepultura and things like that. But for me, the thing that made a huge impact on me was actually Metallica Ride the Lightning. That album sort of like changed my perspective on music and what I wanted to do musically. I think sort of like sitting there at home, listening to Ride the Lightning and reading the lyrics and going through the sheet. I felt that the lyrics were really profound and they like affected me quite emotionally, and I just felt that that was what I wanted to do. So out of all the bands, Metallica was the band that actually sort of created this inspiration in me. And then a couple years later, then I got into black metal, and then the rest is history.
About Vosforis, how was born this project? And you have recently published your first album. Can you talk about it? And can you reveal the details of the album?
Yeah, sure. So I moved to London in 2009 from South Africa, and I came over because I wanted to play in bands and I wanted to pursue music more so than I was doing in South Africa, and then also just go to gigs and things like that. So I'd been playing in quite a few bands here in London, and making various connections with people and things like that, as you do, and because London is London, you have like a wide mixture of people in the metal scene, whether it's just sort of random people like myself or quite well-established musicians, and if you are in the right place, sometimes you can get to meet some of these people, and also just people have their mutual friends everywhere. I'd been playing in quite a few bands and sort of succeeding to certain levels of playing gigs, opening for bands, doing some recordings and things like that. But essentially for me, after the pandemic, and I think this is a similar story to many other musicians, we all kind of sort of, we had a little think about our lives and about ourselves, and we all decided to, start being creative. And for me, I had always been a guitarist. I'd never really considered myself a vocalist or anything like that. And so I felt that the best way to do this was to essentially just do everything myself. As you can see, we're sort of sitting in my studio here at home. So this is where all the vocals and guitars and things were tracked for the album. Essentially I just started writing the music. I already knew Adrian from for a couple of years already, and we'd been talking about some things. And I put some demos together and I sent it along to him and I said, "What do you think?" And he was like, "No, this is, doesn't suck. Let's do something." It was sort of at that point that I realized that I needed to sort of get my guitar playing up, and then I also needed to learn how to sing. And that's essentially where Richard and Annabelle came in. Even though there's the Cradle of Filth connection, I didn't actually know any of them through Cradle. I knew Adrian through mutual friends, and Annabelle and Richard, I actually got in contact through Instagram. They were just basically advertising, because at the time when they were both in Cradle, they were advertising music lessons. Richard guitar lessons, Annabelle vocal lessons, and sort of songwriting and that kind of thing. So I just got in touch at different times, and that was how they got involved. So Annabelle, essentially taught me in this particular style, or at least, and then helped me a lot with songwriting and arrangement. So she had a very big part in how a lot of the music sounds. Essentially, helping me develop my ideas a lot more, because the way that the demo sounded initially versus how they sound now are two quite largely different things. So that was really how everyone was involved with the album. So then we spent 2022 just the whole year just working on the recordings. And then towards the end of the year, I was having a chat with Adrian, and I just sort of said, "Do you know anyone who can record the album?" And he had been working with Russ Russell previously on an At the Gates album, I believe, and he recommended Russ. Russ, as you all know, pretty much recorded all the Napalm Death albums, and did some stuff with Dimmu, and obviously At the Gates, The Haunted, and a whole host of other bands. So I got in touch with him, sent him some emails of the demos, and again, he was like, "That's cool, let's do something." So we were able to secure some time with him at the beginning of 2023, and then that whole process lasted about a month. So we took all of the so I tracked all the guitars and vocals here, and we took and the keyboards. And then we took that up to Russ's studio, and then we reamped everything. So you can see this amp up here, this white Soldano. Well, this was actually an amp that I built because I got into making valve amplifiers. Interestingly, James McIlroy from Cradle of Filth, who I had met many years ago, and we stuck up a bit of a friendship, and he got me into building valve amplifiers. So this was the first valve amp that I built, and that actually featured on the recording itself. So we reamped all the guitars and bass with Russ. We did some extra tracking on my vocals, did a few extra tracks on the guitars, recorded the drums, and we did that in about 2 weeks, and then we had another further 2 weeks of mixing and mastering. And then that was that really. I then had since this was the first album that I'd ever sort of done myself, I then had to sort of organize the artwork, and that took quite a long time, because I ended up having I had one artist that I was talking to, and it didn't really work out that well. Then I had to find another artist, which interestingly Adrian had recommended to me, because he did some artwork for the Lurking Fear, which is another band that Adrian plays in. So Stefan came in and he did the artwork quite quickly, and then he also did the packaging for the vinyl edition as well. There's also a CD edition, but I haven't released that yet. And then he also did the artwork for the t-shirts. And then I just extracted elements of that. Yeah, he also did the design for the logo as well. So he pretty much did everything. Now, in terms of the themes of the album, this is quite dense. I think we can spend quite a long time talking about this, because essentially, when I started with the album, I had a collection of ideas at a high level that I wanted to sort of discuss. I mean, as you can imagine, black metal is highly conceptual to start off with. So it is and it isn't a concept album. Because I suppose all black metal albums are concept albums. But with this one, I'd been thinking a lot about. I suppose to start off with, the album is very self-centered. It starts with my perception of myself and the world, and then it sort of extends out from there, to how I view the universe, maybe how I think about like life in the universe, if there is any, and then maybe the sort of outer edges of the universe where it decays into uncertainty, and we get the sort of the other side, so to speak. And so I was having, there were various sort of like topics in this literal space, you could say, that I'd been thinking about, and so I just wrote all these ideas down that I was thinking about, and that sort of formed the basis for a lot of the lyrics. Now, simultaneously to all of this, I sort of got into, I got more into, let's say, I got more into like psychedelics a couple of years ago. And what I'd found was with a lot of those experiences is that I had these more well-defined ideas about what I was thinking about in terms of the lyrics. So a lot of things that I thought about and emotions and ideas from those experiences then actually became a lot of the lyrics on the album as well. Just in terms of things I'd been thinking about or had experienced or witnessed or whatever. More in terms of like the UFO alien concept aspect of the album. There was some stuff in there that I thought was pretty cool and interesting to me, or at least that I felt was significant from those experiences. The album, focuses on myself, and my emotions and maybe the rest of the world. There's obviously a misanthropic element of that. There's certainly left-hand path, occult references, anti-cosmic, things like that. And then, of course, in terms of, speculative alien life and things like that, potential solutions to the Fermi paradox, let's say, and then just sort of, just other things I'd been reading, in terms of like occult literature and things like that. So yeah, even though I would have liked to really delve into these topics, in a very more well-defined way, I feel like lyrically I only touch on them. There was sort of like, a lot of the stuff got condensed into sort of bumper stickers, if you could imagine it like that.
After the album, what about the future of the band and about your future project?
Well, so at the moment I self-published this through my own record label. So I'm essentially having to do the promotion as well as the logistics of the album. Now, as many people can imagine, self-promotion and this kind of thing is very difficult, particularly if you aren't playing any live gigs. So the next step really is to put a live band together and then start doing some shows. I've got a few things that I need to sort out between now and let's say June, and then after that, I would like to start doing some shows and then probably start working on the next album. Actually, I've already got some ideas. I've got some music and things that's starting to take shape in that respect.
You have other projects outside this band?
Oh yes, yeah. So I actually play guitar in another band, in my friend's band, iHort, which we've got an EP that's out, or like a mini album, and essentially we've been just playing some shows around London, and we've been out to like other areas around the sort of surrounding areas of London. I think we've got a show in Scotland later this year, and there might be some potential for playing in France and abroad. But yeah, I'm just playing guitar in that band, and friends of mine that I've had for many years. But yeah, iHort, check them out. Also really cool. Sort of more like more like sort of like old school, like 90s black metal worship, I would say.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for staying here. It's a very pleasure to talk with you.
Yes, you too.
And good luck for your projects.
Yes, great. Thank you very much.